Welcome to the third episode of the Expansive Love Dialogues, Conversations to Expand Love. In this episode, Gillian Brooks and Digby Scott offer their perspective on leading a blended family and planning life by design. Their life by design process is something they've done as a couple over several years, but recently they've gone public and have started to support other couples in the process of planning life together. The story has exploded on social media and in the press, and it's interesting that other couples seem to be really hungry for connection and mutually supportive planning in the way that Digby and Gillian are role modeling. My conversation with them is really rich. It's full of concepts like safety and vulnerability and supporting the best version of each other, and I really hope that you're able to take away some useful insights. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Expansive Love Dialogues, Conversations to Expand Love. I'm joined by Digby and Gillian, who are friends and mentors and wonderful human beings. I'm really grateful that you've got the time to spend on this episode. Hopefully we will have the chance to explore all things love and how it shows up for you in your relationships. A great way to get started would be to understand how the two of you met. Gillian, can you share that with us?
Sure. So we met, I think it was 2014. It was purely in a professional capacity. I was head of HR in a government agency, and I was looking for someone to work with me to build a very creative leadership development program. Because I was in the public service, we had a list that we were allowed to choose from. I found Digby on that list, and he was the only one who I didn't find a bit tedious and boring.
Until she met me.
I think I was looking for something that wasn't standard. You know, there was a lot of overuse of the word capability, and I was a bit over it, if I'm honest. And what I was looking for was something that was kind of, let's create something new together. And Digby's line was something like, I want to work with restless go-getters. And that was certainly your branding at the time.
I help leaders work on stuff and nail it.
And it was like anti-public service, you know?
Not anti.
Well, not anti. True. Countercultural. Maybe that's better. That's what I was looking for. And that was the kind of energy I needed to get creative. And so I got in touch with him, and that's how we met.
Yeah, we met in a meeting room in a building off Lambton Quay. I remember walking into the room. I think you met me at reception. You took me to the room, and we just didn't stop talking for the hour or whatever we had. And laughing. And it was just like, oh, God, this is refreshing. You weren't corporate. And you're like, oh, budget, don't worry, I'll figure that out. I'd say refreshing is a good word, actually, that would describe the first experience. There wasn't anything besides what are we going to be working on together? And it was just like, this will be fun. And it was easy. I think they were fun, refreshing, easy would be words I'd use, which continues to this day.
Yeah.
Right.
When did you know the other person was more than a professional connection?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
It's so hard to go on this day, and this is what happened. I think you could say there were stages, right? Like there was the professional kind of, not so much transactional, because it was never really transactional, but like, there was a contractual work bit. And then it became professional friends. If that makes sense. Like, people you go out with and you start to talk more about than just the work stuff. You start to talk about the life stuff and how do we change the world stuff. And there was three of us. There was you, me, and another fella, Jeremy Leslie. The three of us would go out for dinner and chats regularly. And it was just this big, expansive conversations. And I remember thinking, I really look forward to these conversations more so than most other things I had in my calendar after work, sort of things. Like it was like, oh no, these are really uplifting.
Expansive.
Expansive
conversations.
That is a good word.
Yeah.
And Jeremy kind of fell away, got busy doing other things. And we continued on meeting and just talking about big ideas and
Yeah.
coaching each other and challenge each other's ideas.
Here's what, we'd literally send each other an agenda before. Just go, I really want to get your view on this.
A burger and a beer.
Yeah.
It was usually after work.
Yeah, exactly. And so there was nothing romantic about it at that time, but it just evolved into something that, this is something we can explore.
Could you describe it as platonically intimate?
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Never thought about it like that.
It's that kind of, here's someone who gets me and who can help me take an idea or an inkling I've got that needs a bit more work or needs some more thinking. And we would just kind of kick it around together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, there was one day where I did say to you, what is this thing we have between us?
Yeah.
And that was part of the invitation to explore deeper what we had, because it's pretty special.
Yeah.
And so it just really evolved over years and years and years. It wasn't like I think it was much more gradual than that.
Yeah.
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 I love that. I love intimacy, and I treat intimacy widely. Intimacy can be emotional, intimacy can be intellectual, intimacy can obviously be physical, it can be spiritual. Intimacy is very wide and can capture lots of different relationships.
Yes.
And I think to honor the platonic version of your intimacy and that it then evolved is a beautiful love story, right? It's your version, it's your love story, and it's lovely. And it's very different to my love story, which is I met my wife on a Glasgow dance club and it was love first sight.
You're more like that stereotypical like story you see in the movies or something, right?
Yeah. Boy meets girl. Yeah.
That's right.
A very slow burn.
Yeah.
Given that you both were married previously, given your previous circumstances, totally appropriate the way it evolved. Like, it's just the way it was meant to evolve.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that foundation of friendship first and getting to know lots of the other dimensions of each other first was and is such a beautiful way to sustain something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the opposite. You have all the physical stuff first, and then that can take a back seat as you discover all these other elements of each other.
There's a longitudinal study out of Harvard that demonstrated that the best indicator of a long, sustainable marriage or partnership is best friendship. You're either best friends or you're not. And if you are best friends, that's an indicator that you will last.
Yeah. That's how we describe it, isn't it? It's that friendship first. That's the foundation. If I think about some of my closest, dearest girlfriends, the way I can chat with them is the same way I can chat with you. Yeah.
Family life current now is a blended family. If you could just describe kind of what's the age range, how many kids are in the blended family, and kind of how, I would love to just hear what that looks like.
So I have 3 kids. None of them live here with us. Although my 24-year-old, who's the oldest, he did live with us for a while. And that was an interesting experiment just recently for a few months. Having finished uni, in transition to looking for a full-time career role. So he's 24, got a 22-year-old and an 18-year-old, nearly 19, and they're both down in Dunedin at university.
Right.
They've been away from home and are away from home. And then we have 2 more kids, Gillian.
My 2 girls who are 13 and 10 live with us half the time. And so when we're a blended family, it's kind of more as a special occasion, probably, or holidays. Like we've got holiday planned over the summer where there'll be some blended time, or when your eldest came to live with us, that was more blended time. And the girls, like my 2, really love the opportunity to get to know Digby's kids. I think it's both ways. I hope so. Most of the time.
Yeah, I think it's also where my kids are at. Like they're becoming adults. It's like where their priorities are. It's probably not the number one thing on their list, but they definitely identify as like stepsisters and brothers and things like that, for sure.
It's really nice. Really nice to just let them lead that rather than put it in a pressure cooker and hope for the best. That's definitely not our approach.
What insight or learnings did you take from your first marriages that you've brought into your new blended family?
That's a great question. I think for me, one of the things that I've grown, I needed to grow quite a lot between those two key relationships. One of those was stop people pleasing quite so much, because it's not very helpful or healthy. Learning how to tune in with myself, that was where I needed to begin that work, so that I could figure out what I needed or would like. You've been really supportive in helping me spend time figuring that out over the last five plus years.
Do you remember when I asked you one time early on, like, what is it that you need? And you burst into tears. You hadn't been used to being asked that question.
I had no idea how to even begin to answer that question a few years ago. So I've really needed to tune in with myself. If I go back 6-7 years, I was really busy with a full-time job. I had 2 much younger children. Life was just so full on. I think lots of parents at that stage, particularly women, tend to get too busy and forget to check in with themselves. I know I'm not unique. I've got plenty of friends who relate to that story. I'm glad I didn't leave it any longer to start to build that habit. And it certainly helps me if I think about how I parent. I definitely, and how I am in our relationship, it's just really understanding the importance of people checking in with themselves first to figure out what's going on for them before they can then be in a useful partnership and any healthy relationship, really.
Yeah, nice. And it sounds like you somehow found the time and the space and the energy to explore yourself.
Well, it became pretty crucial, actually.
That's right.
It was like, it wasn't really optional, like it was pretty important, wasn't it? It was pretty crucial. So I created a bit of space to do it and develop some small habits like journaling. I've got a fantastic set of very close friends that I can just blah at, and they help me check in with where I'm at as well. A bit of internalized, that the introverted thinking through journaling, but also I'm a bit of an extrovert, so making sure I can extrovert some of that thinking too is really helpful.
Yeah, nice.
And I think what I've noticed is that you definitely make time for you. I never really saw you when you were in your previous marriage, but it did feel like it appeared to be a bit more transactional. Okay, here is my time.
Yes.
And that's the only time. And the rest of the time is not my time. Whereas now I think it's a lot more fluid. You seek out what you think you need, and you and I talk about, so how do you get that?
Yeah.
And I think it goes both ways. But it doesn't feel transactional. It feels generous. And, it's because helping you get what you need is part of the what we're about.
Yeah.
Helping the other person be the best they can. And if that means helping them get what they need, then that's my job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think that energy of helping someone become the best version of themselves, right? And actually being invested in what they need to become the best version of themselves, right? And not because I have an expectation on you of what you could become, but you have an expectation of yourself. And it's up to me to support that.
Yeah, that's the way to put it.
That's really nicely put. And I don't think I really understood that 6 years ago.
What did you think it was 6 years ago? What was the deal?
I just saw the role of wife and mother as you put everybody else first, and that's your job.
Yeah.
I think I was a bit simplistic and traditional, a bit old-fashioned, perhaps. And that was, a lot of women have that modeled to them, like in different ways throughout their lives. It's that kind of questioning some of those roles that you've accepted, and then you suddenly realize the cost of doing that over a longer period of time. What I'm hopeful for is that more of us see the whole person rather than this gendered perspective over who's meant to do what in the family context. That was my kind of blinkered view of my life, really. Yeah. Yeah.
What have I learned? I want to sum it up. Have the conversations that matter. I think I edited myself too much. Definitely reforming people pleaser as well, but also a conflict avoider. I actually don't mind conflict now. Healthy tension I've finally grown to appreciate the value of that. But I think earlier I was like, oh, no, keep the peace or don't go there because that means our relationship's not great if we've got tension. That was the story in my head. And I don't think I allowed myself to be fully self-expressed in my previous marriage. And I don't beat myself up for that, and I don't blame anyone for that. It's more that was the lesson. Have the conversation about what I need and be unapologetic, also not demanding. I think what I'm learning just in life is know what I need and ask for it, not in a permissions sort of way, but, I think I really need this, and be clean about that. And I think that's something that I carry forward into us. Is that fair? Do you experience that for me?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think because we're so clear in our own minds about, we've both got some growing to do here, we can support each other. So if either, because, as Digby said, we're both recovering people pleasers, we might recognize that in each other quite readily.
Oh, you've called me out of which is great. I remember one time you said, I said, I'll be another 5 minutes or something. And we were going somewhere and I said, sorry, I'll be another 5 minutes. And you just went, you don't have to apologize. It's fine. I think I had this story in my head that you'd be pissed off that I was taking long.
Waiting or something.
So it's interesting. I think we help each other uncover the assumptions we hold about what it means to be in relationship. Not that the other one's got a better answer, but it's just like, well, how is that useful? That assumption. So just to shine a light on that is so
helpful.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
Well,
It accelerates the process.
You're also both exceptional communicators. So I can imagine when the courage is high or the vulnerability is open, the clarity of your conversations must be really rich, really deep all the time.
It might not feel like that in the moment, but maybe if we were observing it, you'd probably go, wow.
Do you remember? So my best friend from the UK, she came to visit. Well, she's come to visit a couple of times actually since we've been together. The first time she came, she spent some time with the two of us together. And I've known her since the first day of primary school. We were 4. And so she knows me really well.
She's got all the dirt.
Yeah. And she said to me after she'd spent a couple of evenings with us or whatever, she's like, the conversations that you and Digby have, honestly, you can tell you're both coaches. Her and her husband, they are not in the same professional world at all. She's like, if I went home and tried to have some of these conversations with my husband, he would just look at me like, what has happened to you? So I think, it's definitely been noted. The way we talk to each other is not necessarily the way everyone.
Same language.
Yeah. Well, and that's a beautiful segue into the recent investment, or it may not be so recent. It's just recently gone public. Your investment in Life by Design and doing that together and being public with the whole journey of doing Life by Design together. And now you're hosting a workshop for other couples that do it. And I'm just like, how has all of that emerged, exploded?
Yeah, I would say together we've done it for about 3 years. Every year we've evolved the process. Personally, a lot of the tools I've been using for maybe 20 years, stuff that I've developed and stolen from other places or borrowed, been inspired by. And so I've kind of done a pretty regular process. Almost, I burned out in my corporate career when I was in my early 30s. And I made a commitment to myself that I'd always be deliberate about how I spent my time. I've developed a mindset and approach that's been there since then, that many years ago. And then we started doing it together 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, but we never really made it public, particularly as a couples thing, until this year. And that was only just almost on the whim.
Yeah, flip strategy.
You just flip it,
like I
put
wrote,
it out there?
we did this. So for people listening, we did a long weekend away where we went through a semi-structured process. We had some questions we wanted to explore, like, what were the highlights from the last 12 months? What have we learned from that? What do we dream of for the next 12 to 18 months, both individually and collectively? What do we want? How do we make that happen? When would we do these things? And we had all these questions. And I just wrote a post after the long weekend, the night we got back. And I was full of love and joy about this amazing weekend we'd had. It was super productive, but also fun.
Yeah.
And I just wrote about it. And then it went nuts on LinkedIn.
We were so surprised. You just kept saying to me, oh my goodness, it's got this many reactions now. And then it just kept climbing. A few days later, we got a journalist from The Telegraph who got in touch with Digby saying, oh, we'd really like to interview you and Gillian to find out more about this post. Well, the reason they wanted to do a story about it was because they were so pleasantly surprised at how the comments of the post were so relentlessly positive. There was no cynicism about it, no eye rolling, no, oh yeah, right, whatever, that sounds like a fun time. It was kind of like,
the journal was a bit skeptical when it first started.
Yeah, the journalist was like, why is everyone so positive about this? And so it was this interesting, unexpected positivity story that resonated with people in a way we hadn't anticipated, certainly not to the scale of the reaction to it. And it was just a lovely experience, really, wasn't it?
Well, and do you know what you did? Looking at it from outside, you gave people permission. You gave people permission to sit around a table with a bottle of wine and plan life together.
Post-it notes.
And it was
those two things can coexist.
You could feel the love in your post, Digby. Like I could feel the connection between you in the way you described the weekend together. But it was also a combination of the practical side of, oh yeah, we should be thinking 18 months ahead and planning life together, because if we don't do that, life's just going to hit us and we have to drown.
And that's the thing, right? You've only got so much time, energy, money, whatever. And so you kind of think, well, if these things are relatively finite, what's the best version of that for us for the next 12 months?
So that's the definition of strategy. Are we living a strategic life and a strategic relationship? Is that what we're about? You two are so strategic.
Well, and my question is, how do you make it strategically loving?
Yeah.
Well, I think with that's a great question. I think the main thing was about co-creation. It wasn't about the process per se. It was about, look, if we're going to be living a good life together, then we want to be co-creating that.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole spirit. And then the tools and the questions, everything just helped that.
Yeah. And if you think about what we said in terms of the growth we've both experienced in the last few years, it's an expression of that, right?
It tested that, actually. For me to say this is what I'd really love.
Yeah.
And then to share that with you was like, well, here's me being really real, not editing and being vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's saying, here's what I would love. If you can have a conversation with each other about what are my dreams, what are your dreams, what are our dreams, and those are three separate categories.
Yeah.
That's such a loving conversation to be able to have.
Because I might say something going, no idea how I'm going to make that work or happen. And then you might come in and go, well, here's something that I really want too. It's a bit different to what you're saying, but what would that look like if we created that? What would the creative version of that look like?
Yeah.
And it's questions like that rather than, oh, that's never going to happen. With our budget, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there was none of that.
No.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
And what would happen if we found a way to both create that together? And it was those sort of questions. So I think there was definitely coming into it without any sense of it being transactional or trade-offy or, my brownie points and your brownie points and all that rubbish.
It's that ability to generate something we're both excited about rather than trading.
Yeah.
There's so much trading.
And I talk a lot about the evolution from conditional love to transactional love to unconditional love to universal love. You got to figure out your way up the ladder, right? And
Yeah.
each stage teaches you something about staying on the higher step of the ladder. I think the energy of a lot of relationships, professional and personal, is transactional. I'll do this for you, you do this for me. It's a transaction, right? And
And there's a ledger.
it's
Yeah.
reciprocal love. It's reciprocal love,
Yeah.
and we're keeping score. Right?
Yeah.
Unconditional love doesn't look like that. That's why your process worked, because it was full of possibility. We
Yes.
will love each other and see the possibility in each other for the next 18 months and beyond.
Yep. That's it.
I think what's important was this no resentment being held from past decisions, or you got to do that last year. There was sort of no like, okay, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
Like that was really, there was none of that.
I think there's that spirit of, the Christian faith would call it give something with grace. It's that kind of idea of generosity, not keeping a score, right? You gift something to somebody and that's the end of it. It's literally just gifted with no strings attached.
Yeah.
The spirit, you give something with grace. And I think that's the route into a creative excitement, kind of way of creating that kind of life by design.
Yeah. And it's beautiful role modeling. Like, it's role modeling on such an exceptional level for partners around the world, right? What could be. If you wanted it to be, it could be like this if you want it, right? Yeah. I guess I'm curious, given that you have 3 years experience doing it, if you were back 3 years ago doing it for the first time, if there are people watching this who are like, yeah, I want to do that with my partner, how do you start in a safe way? How do you get it rolling in a way that is unconditional, not transactional?
It's a good question. You know what I think really helped us was the first 2 steps. It was about an hour or so's drive to where we went and stayed for the weekend. And the drive was all about, what are we hoping for the weekend? Why do we want to do this? What's important to us about it? And so that started the process. It was just kind of like, what are we both hoping for out of this, and what matters, and how do we want to experience the next 48 hours or so? And so I feel like that is important. Yeah. The next step was that night we just went out to dinner, lots of wine, and we just sat in this pub and just talked about the year gone by and what we'd learned from it. Like, what were the highlights? What were the hard bits? What were the lessons? What does it say about what we both want more of or less of? And that felt like safe, I think. Oh, I don't know if that's the right word, but it felt like it was a way to set things up without having to be kind of, well, at least for me, going, this is what I want. Oh, yeah, that. But I think as I've been talking, the other part of it is that I feel like we weren't coming from first gear, because we talk about this stuff a lot. We just don't formalize it. And so I think we have a habit of checking in with each other about, how's life going? How are we going? And so I think we've got a muscle there that's been helpful. I think, what would be a lot harder if the marriage felt very broken.
Yeah.
And, to come in where, maybe there's a sense of real distance and like, I don't really trust you and I don't really know what your agenda is. If the relationship was kind of that, I think it would be a lot harder to do what we did.
I think the ingredient that would ruin it is that defensiveness. Whereas actually, when you're reflecting back on a whole year of your relationship and your lives together, then of course there are going to be moments that have been hard and moments of utter joy. And so to be able to navigate that reflection together, you've got to just let the other person feel really safe to share, without feeling like you've got to correct them and give them your version, or whatever, it's not going to survive that defensive mechanism.
It's fascinating. The two of you in the last 3 minutes have both used the term safe. And the term safe was a fundamental topic of both of my first 2 episodes. So safety in best friendship, safety in a partnership, safety in a marriage. If you both don't feel safe, what hope do you have of being vulnerable?
Yeah.
And I think it's almost chicken and egg, right? Because safety can come from vulnerability. Vulnerability can certainly come from safety, but to be vulnerable and be brave can create an environment to redefine what it means to be safe. Because I think to be safe doesn't mean putting the armor on, right?
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's actually taking the armor off and being brave enough to go, this is the whole me. This is the warts and all version. And that can be, paradoxically scary, but also can create an environment of safety.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've really had to learn, is to be okay with being wobbly, being unsure, but also having my voice come through. This is what matters most.
Yeah.
I think on the other side of that conversation is you being able to listen so well and help me feel seen and honored. That's the bit that I think is so generous. And both parties need to be able to do that, because otherwise it does risk becoming transactional. Well, you've listened to me and I've listened. And if it's not going both ways, then it can feel like, well, hang on, I now need to be heard.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole process of Life by Design, your experience with it as coaches, your experience with it as leaders in our community, and the role modeling you're doing in setting an example of what can be done in a romantic couple context is very powerful. Super, super powerful. And that's why it got so much attention the way it did.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? What people are ready for.
Yeah. 10 years ago, would it have got the same reaction? I'm not sure. I think the world is always ready for love. The world is waiting for love to show up.
Yeah.
And has been for millennia.
Yes.
It shows up differently with different generations. It shows up differently in different contexts. And these conversations are really interesting because this is a very different conversation to the first two episodes. And it's powerful.
Well, I think there's this, if I think about how we originally met and our professional selves, there's a mirroring here, I think, in terms of like professionally there was a Venn diagram you drew years ago, which was, it literally, it wasn't the most profound thing in the world, but it was quite impactful.
Simple.
It was like one circle, which Digby wrote, my stuff. And then another circle, which wrote, your stuff. And then the intersection of those two circles was
our stuff.
I reckon I've got that.
We've talked about that so much over the longest version of our relationship. We've always explored that. We are both mindful and critical of the busyness of our culture and how counterproductive that is, whether economically, spiritually, or from a family perspective. It's just bad. When we bring our professional lives together, that's something we both care deeply about, and we have different ways into that conversation, and it really shows up in how we design our lives together personally. And I think there's something there in terms of how we're then bringing that personal life of planning your world so that you get more joy and you get more space and the things that you really value back into our professional lives.
Integrate. That's a better word.
And Gillian, I loved what you said earlier on this conversation, which is similar to the my stuff, your stuff, our stuff. But when you described it using dreams, my dreams, your dreams, our dreams, that resonates so deeply with people, because you absolutely are supposed to have your own solo dreams. And it's great to have joint dreams and live them together.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, what are you doing together?
Absolutely. I'm going to bring us in for a landing. So I'm going to close with 3 questions. First of all, what's your favorite love story?
My favorite love story is the first one I can remember consuming as a child, and that was Dirty Dancing.
Oh, wow.
Actually doing Dirty Dancing or the movie?
The movie. And there's this whole analysis of Dirty Dancing and what it meant, and the feminist take on why Dirty Dancing was such an important story. I just love that story. Just 2 people from completely different worlds that saw something special in each other and had this beautiful romance. They supported each other's dreams, and then they parted again. As a child, it was really inspiring. I just love that story.
And you still do.
I still do.
Yeah.
You leave thinking, I wonder if they'll meet up again, and you just don't know, and that's part of the joy of it.
The mystery.
Yeah.
Digby, what about you?
I would say, actually, it's a movie too, and we just watched it the other night, The Notebook, which is a tearjerker, right? Well, it was for me the first time I watched it. Two people from completely different worlds who see something in each other that it's just like, well, of course. And that to me, and the tension about how to make that work, which is always a good movie, plot structure, right? What also I love about it is that it's not straightforward. Watching it the other night, I never really appreciated the fact that they fight. Not that we really fight, but it's not all roses and chocolate and happy. You got to work to make it work.
They're fully human.
Yeah. And I think that's something I've appreciated. That's what I noticed the other night. So they're prepared for it not to be easy. And I would say we haven't chosen the easy path. It's definitely not straightforward how we live. Yet it seems to work. And so that The Notebook, it's beautiful. And it's also a long story, right? Like it's not flash in the pan, all done and dusted, happily ever after. Windy road.
True.
That's what life should be like.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I have a theory that love created across a cultural divide or a difficulty or a religious divide has to be stronger for the partnership to survive, right? The love shows up either deeper or richer or with more variety or with more something than an easy path.
Yeah.
I think also you and I are both people that do choose the path that feels right, regardless of how hard it is.
Yeah.
I think that's just who we are.
We're not like the least resistance kind of people.
No. This is too important. This is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And how do you both define love?
I struggle with the words, but I think it comes back to wanting and doing everything I can to enable the best, you to be the best version of you can be.
Yeah.
And that means having what you want to have, doing what you want to do, feeling how you want to feel, growing how you want to grow. And my role is to unconditionally help that happen. That to me feels like a fair definition.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's that, and it's I agree with that completely. One of the things you and I talk about a lot is that interdependency, not a dependency and not completely independent either, but this kind of like, we're even better because we're together and we give each other the space to be fully ourselves individually, but that's also enhanced because we're together. It brings this additional dimension. Both are
picture early on of two vines interweaving and growing up, and the idea was that each of the vines was us, but also the fact that they were interweaving, they held each other up and they made its own sort of plant, if you like. I mean, it's a bit like that passage from the book The Prophet from Khalil Gibran, and which is often read at weddings and things around, I can't remember, it's like, let the oak and the cypress tree not stand in each other's shadow, but give each other enough space to grow how they need to grow. I'm making a real hash of that, but that sentiment, like that's what it is. It's what love is.
Yeah. How do you consistently increase love in your life?
I think this is something you say to me a lot about gratitude. You know, I think the more I can feel grateful for all the love I have, I've got more to give back to the people in my life. You know, just filling yourself up with that emotional, it's like a real kind of infinite stock, you know, that you can kind of then give out again, you know, and just feeling really grateful for having these relationships and loving being a mum to my kids and all those sorts of things. It's that, wow, I get to do this. That's amazing. And then it just kind of keeps flowing, doesn't it?
I really like that. I would say for me, it's showing you that I see you and I get that you need things that I can help you get. I try to acknowledge, if love is about helping you become and get what you need and who you want to become, then I think every day is trying to go, all right, how do I help you realize that?
Yeah.
Whether that's just showing you that I see you and I care.
Making me a cup of tea.
Acts of service. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's
Little
it,
things
right?
make
It's
a
not-
big difference.
Yeah.
Because, our lives mean we're not always together every day and all that. So it's like the little things in between is the glue, the mortar, right? Whatever metaphor you use.
Yeah, nice. Before we close, do you have any questions for me?
What have you learned from our conversation?
Yeah, nice.
I've learned that love shows up uniquely in every partnership I've interviewed so far. The love is unique to that partnership, and it is common across humanity. Somehow it is both the same and uniquely different. Having asked, how do you define love, to hundreds of people in the last 12 months, everybody has their own definition, and every definition is accurately right, but they are all different. So what is love? Love is whatever you want it to be.
Christopher, if this series of experimental conversations achieves everything it could possibly achieve, what would that mean to you? What would that be?
The current people booked as guests are strong, courageous people willing to talk about love publicly. And it's very powerful. What I hope for the Expansive Love dialogues is that it inspires open, vulnerable, transparent conversations about love at people's dining room tables, between people who may not have had a conversation about love before, that may be a little bit fearful, that may not know how to lean into vulnerability, but for people to be courageous and to intentionally have conversations about love in their way, in their version. They don't have to follow a pattern or a formula, but just be brave enough to talk about love in their family and in their, whether it's a romantic relationship or their friendships. That's what I hope for.
That's beautiful. What
That's
a goal.
awesome. What a lovely question.
Yeah.
Well, can I thank you both so much for your time and your wisdom and just your lovely sharing. It's been beautiful. So thank you both so much. And I'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you so much.
Christopher. Brilliant.
What a wonderful conversation with Gillian and Digby. I think what sticks with me the most is probably the Venn diagram idea of having your stuff, my stuff, and our stuff. And by extension, the idea connected to dreams, my dreams, your dreams, our dreams. I think what's valuable and powerful about those concepts is we have permission to be independent individuals. And also we are invested in a partnership with shared stuff or shared dreams or shared purpose. Otherwise, why are we in the partnership? Those concepts will stick with me for some time. I'm grateful to Gillian for asking the question about my hopes for the Expansive Love mission and particularly the Expansive Love dialogues, and the fact that I was invited to spontaneously respond to that and express my hope for inspiring, loving conversations around the world. I hope this episode has been useful and that you are able to draw some positive action from it. See you on the next one.